Chapter 65 of Shrimadbhagavatam, Ajamila's Death. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Man, absorbed as he is in worldly things, worldly pleasures and the pursuit of worldly happiness, has his mind clouded by ignorance of the truth about his real nature. To him, the eternal cycle of births and deaths will always exist. It is only with the help of knowledge that the wheel can be torn. This chain can be snapped. Discipline is essential. By discipline is meant spiritual discipline. Just as a man who always eats clean, wholesome food will never be troubled by diseases, even so, a man who partakes of spiritual food will never suffer. This food is discipline. Controlling the mind is essential. Mental concentration on the Brahman, withdrawal of the senses from the sense objects, conquest of the mind in its wanderings in the morass of the senses, self-denial, speaking the truth at all times, cleanliness internal and external, compassion towards all living beings, abhorrence of stealing and avoiding receiving gifts from others, all these will help to destroy the ignorance in the mind like fire destroys a bamboo forest fire, concealed in the bamboo itself. One's salvation is within one's own power and it can be achieved only by one's own self. There are, however, some who have reached the Lord by unconditional surrender, Sharanagati. Their sins are destroyed like the snow by the sun, and a man who offers himself to the Lord reaches a stage higher than that of anyone else. This path of devotion is the highest and the most effective path. No tapas, no penance, no privations can equal this bhakti to the Lord. Once a man fixes his mind on the feet of the Lord, then sin and death will not come near him, not even in his dreams. So potent is the power of this yoga called Bhakti Yoga. There is an ancient story to illustrate the power of this bhakti towards Narayana. There lived a Brahmin called Ajamila in the country which was famed as Kanyakubja. Though he had been born as a Brahmin, this man had fallen on evil ways and had lost all goodness. He was living in sin with the women of the lower class. He, who was once compassionate towards all, became cruel. He became a cheat and a gambler, and also he became avaricious. He would steal the wealth of others, and his life was full of sin. He would not protect his family, which was lawfully his. In short, he was detested by all. Time passed on, and he was getting old. Of this low-born woman, he had 10 sons, and the youngest of them was called Narayana. He was the beloved of his father and mother. Ajamila would spend all his time in the company of the child. In his extreme love for the son, the father thought of nothing else. While eating, he would not eat alone. He would call out to his son and say, Narayana, you should also eat this and eat before I eat. When he drank anything, he would first offer it to his son, saying, Narayana, you drink this first. Spending his time like this, involved with his women and his children, Ajamila never realized that death was drawing near. When death was very near, all his thoughts and actions were bent on his son, and he would speak only his name all the time. Finally, the dreadful messengers of death approached him. He saw them at a distance, and he saw his son Narayana playing in the courtyard. In a failing voice he called out, Narayana, come to me, Narayana. And then he died. When he spoke the words, Narayana, come to me, with his dying breath the servants of Narayana heard him, and they came to him at once. They saw the messengers of Yama, the god of death, dragging the Brahmin's soul away from the body. Narayana's men stopped them. The Yamadutas were very angry and said, Pray, who may you be that have the audacity to prevent the servants of Yama from doing their duty? Where do you come from? To whom do you belong? Are you gods or demigods? Why do you stop us? The servants of Narayana smiled at them and said, If, as you say, you are the servants of Dharma, please tell us about Dharma. Tell us the criterion which governs the punishment meted out to people by dharma. Who are the persons who should be punished? What are punishable actions? Are only human beings punished, or does the rule apply to animals also? Tell us, since we are interested. Yamaduta said, whatever has been ordained by the Vedas is dharma. Dharma can well be called the very breath of Lord Narayana. What is not in accordance with the Vedas is called adharma. Dharma is the Lord Himself. Those who do not follow the dharma prescribed for them are punishable by Yama. Man lives by his actions alone. No man can be without action. And according to a man's actions, meaning according as they are good or bad, man is rewarded or punished. A man's future birth is determined by his actions in this birth, even as his present birth was determined by the actions he performed in his previous birth. Even as the season spring, this moment is but a continuation of the many springs that have come and gone already. This spring will hold in it the seeds of the next spring. Residing in the city called Samyami, the Lord Yama decides on the next birth of a man according to the actions of his in this birth. Man, however, in his ignorance does not pay attention to the instability of the human body. His intelligence is clouded by ignorance and he thinks that this body is the only one he has and that this birth is the only birth he has. He does not think of his previous birth or the one to come. A man who is dreaming does not remember his body of the waking state, nor does he remember the bodies he has had while he was dreaming other dreams. Like a cocoon covered by silk of its own making, man covers his Atman by the results of his karma and deludes himself that he is bound. He cannot ever extricate himself unless and until he realizes that it is entirely within his power for him to free himself. We will tell you about Ajamila. He was once a good man, a very good Brahmin. He was a righteous Brahmin. He was well read, well behaved, and he walked in the path of Dharma. Once, when he had been to the forest to collect kusa grass, flowers and fruits for the worship of the Lord which his father used to perform, Ajamila saw a drunken man making love to a low-born woman. The sight made Ajamila think of the pleasures of the body, of the senses, of the satiation to be got from them. He wanted to have that woman experience the thrill which could be seen on the face of the man who was with her. Ajamila tried his best to use his intelligence and his self-control, but it was all to no purpose. He had fallen a prey to the gnawing hunger of the flesh. It was just a matter of moments before he forgot all the learnings he had acquired and all the discipline he had undergone. He lost his way and strayed from the path of Dharma. He became a slave to that woman and lost himself completely. He had to steal in order to satisfy her avarice, and he had to gamble. In short, all sins became natural to him. He abandoned his father, his wedded wife, and he lived with this woman in sin. He is an adharmi and therefore he deserves to be punished. Narayana's men listened to the words of the Yama Kinkaras and then said, all that you say about this man is true. No doubt he was a sinner, but at the moment when his life was about to leave his body, he called out, Narayana, come here. And that has saved him from your hands. When his name is called, the Lord will never abandon his caller. He treats him as his bhakta and all his sins are washed white. This man is no longer a sinner in the eyes of the Lord, and he has therefore no place in the region of Yama. You may say that he did not mean the Lord when he called out Narayana. He called his son, we know that. But still, such is the power of the name of the Lord that he protects even those who inadvertently pronounced his name. Like a strong and potent medicine, which even when swallowed unintentionally, still cures the sick man who has taken it, even so Ajamila, because he said, Narayana, come here, he has been saved from the punishment by Yama. A man can be a thief, a drunkard, one who deceives his friend, a killer of a Brahmin, one who lusts after his guru's wife, the killer of a king, women, father, or a cow, or a man who has committed a sin greater than all these may exist. But the name of the Lord, when pronounced, will save him from the effects of the sins he has committed. If his child is called by the Lord's name, if the Lord's name is spoken even in a jest, even if it occurs in a song sung for pure pleasure, even if spoken in disparagement of the Lord, even under such circumstances, the very fact that his name is spoken is enough to make Lord compassionate towards him, and he will save the man. If a man has a sudden mishap like falling down the steps or being stung by a serpent or suffering from a fever, if his subconscious self calls out the Lord's name out of the sheer habit, he is saved. The great rishis have prescribed several kinds of atonement for several sins. Each sin has to be atoned for in a particular manner. And even after that, there is no assurance that the man will not repeat the sinful act. These rites are like temporary cures for a disease. They do not get to the core of the matter and destroy the sin in the heart of a man. However, surrender at the feet of the Lord destroys all sin. It kills the root of sin. Consider a large expanse of darkness. Is not a tiny lamp enough to dispel it? And if the lamp is kept burning steadily by being fed with the proper oil, darkness can never come to that spot. The name of Lord invokes thoughts on the Lord, and these in their turn make a man lose his sinfulness. The vasanas get destroyed on their own accord, and man sins no more. This man Ajamila did not know the power of the name of the Lord, and so you may say what he did not do conscientiously cannot have any effect. You are wrong. Like a spark of fire touching a piece of wood accidentally still burns it completely till nothing remains, even so his sins have all been burnt away. If you are still not convinced by our words, go to your master Yama and ask him if our words are true. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Chapter 66 of Shrimadbhagavatam. Yama explains. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. The servants of Yama released Ajamila and went back to their master. They told him about the happenings on the earth, about how, when they went to bring Ajamila, they were prevented from doing so by some demigods. They recounted the discussion they had with the servants of Narayana. The servants of Yama said, "It has never happened before, my lord. You are the lord of Dharma, and till now, no one has been able to escape the punishment meted out by you. But today, 4 strange beings flaunted your authority. We captured Ajamila, but they cut the noose of death and released him. He spoke the name Narayana just before he died, and at once they came to his side. They would not let us do our duty. They told us so much about the glory of the name of Narayana and added that you would clarify the matter fully. Tell us why it has to be so." Their words were so full of authority that we had to obey them. What strange power is this which saves a sinner from the noose of Yama? Contrary to their expectations, Yama smiled with happiness and spoke softly to them. He said, "I have great power over the lives of human beings, and I have the power to punish them. You are right so far, but there is one above me whom I have to honor and obey. That is Lord Narayana. Have you seen a piece of cloth? It is woven out of threads, and they make up the woof and warp of the cloth. Even so, this entire universe is woven by him, and he is the power which causes the creation, the maintenance of the universe, and the destruction of this entire universe. Like a bullock led by the string which runs through his nostrils, this world and those living in it are guided by the strings called the Vedas. All of us, Indra, Varuna, Vayu, Surya, all the guardians of the 8 quarters, and Brahma and Agni, and in short, all the gods have not still been able to realize the glory of the Lord, nor do they grasp his Maya. Man is endowed with the organs of sight, smell, touch, taste, and hearing. For him to enjoy the objects of the senses, that is to say, for him to see, to smell, to touch, to taste, and to hear, there is something inside him which makes these functions possible. That something, the heart of man, is the drashta, the seer. Man cannot understand the nature of this something inside him. He is so enveloped in the wheel called Maya that it clouds his intelligence and he is not able to realize the Atman inside him. There are very few who have understood the law laid down by the Lord. I am one of the few, and others are Brahma, Narada, Sanat Kumara, Kapila, Manu, Prahlada, Janaka, Bali, and Vyasa's son Sukha Brahma. The name of the Lord, when spoken constantly by man, is called Bhakti Yoga, and that is said to be the easiest path to the Lord. It is the greatest dharma to be practiced by man. By pronouncing it just once, see how Ajamila was saved from me and the deserts for his sins. Constant thought on the Lord is not just the destroyer of sins, it also grants mukti, moksha, release from the bondage called karma. Those who are ever devoted to the Lord can easily be recognized. They will be even-minded. They will not be troubled by the opposites. They will have tranquility, and they are always protected by the armor which is the Lord's name. I am telling you, you should never ever go near such people. Your victims are only those who have become so involved in the pleasures of the world that they have no thought for other things. They are caught up in the web of Maya, woven by love for wife, for children, for home, for wealth, and for pleasures. Bring to me the man who has never once pronounced his name, whose ears have never once heard the stories of the Lord. Remember, the Lord's name is powerful enough to destroy all the great sins. Penance, tapas, rathas, and other forms of self-denial do not grant man so much grace. In future, remember, the devotees of Narayana are exempt from punishment by me. Ajamila, in the meantime, released from the clutches of death, fell at the feet of his saviors. Before he could speak, they vanished from his sight. Ajamila had heard all the words spoken by the participants in the discussion. Ajamila was filled with repugnance when he thought of the life he had been leading till then. He spoke to himself, I have been a great sinner. Because of my submitting to the temptation of the flesh, I have descended so low. All good men hate me and censure my behavior. I abandoned my young wife and my aged parents, who should have been cherished by me and honored to the end. It is true that I have been a great sinner, but then I have had the good fortune to see the servants of the Lord. I must have performed some good acts in my previous janma, or else this would never have happened to me. Or else this sinful tongue of mine would not have had the sense to speak the name of the Lord. What a distance there is between that holy word and me, a hateful sinner of the worst type. Now that I have been given a second chance, now that the Lord has assured me that my sins are all burnt out, I will live a new life. I have been granted a new lease of life, and I will try to use it profitably. I will fight ignorance. I will try to shed the bondage of karma. I will be friendly towards all human beings. I will be at peace with myself, and I will release myself from this world of sin by my efforts. Because of his momentary contact with the good, Ajamila was able to practice renunciation. He became a great devotee of Narayana. He had no attachments. He reached the banks of the river Ganga, and there he meditated on the Lord. He was so sincere and so eager that soon he was able to find freedom from the bondage called the human body. Once again, he saw the same servants of the Lord who had seen before, and he greeted them with a bowed head. His body fell lifeless on the river bank, and Ajamila became one with the Lord. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Chapter 67 of Shrimadbhagavatam, Daksha's Descendants. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Daksha, the son of Prachetasa brothers, married Asikni, and they had 60 daughters who had been responsible for the population of the world during that Manvantara. Of these girls, 10 were given to Dharma, 13 to Kashyapa Prajapati, 27 to Chandra, the moon, Bhuta, Angirasa and Krishashva had two each. Tarkshya was given four daughters of Daksha. It is said that Tarkshya is another name for Kashyapa. Nandi was a descendant of Daksha. The Vishwa Devas were the sons of one of the daughters. Marutavati was the mother of Marutwan and Jayanta. This Jayanta is sometimes called Upendra. He was Amsha of Vasudeva. Sankalpa was a daughter whose son also was called Sankalpa. Kama is said to be his son. Vasu was the mother of the 8 Vasus: Drona, Prana, Dhruva, Arka, Dosha, Vasu, Vibhavasu, and Agni. Vasu had a wife by name Angi Rasi, and their son was called Vishwakarma. He was the architect of the gods. The son of Vishwakarma was Chakshusha, who later became a Manu. Sarupa, the wife of Bhuta, became the mother of crores of Rudras, 11 of whom are famous: Raivata, Aja, Bhava, Bhima, Vama, Ugra, Vrishakapi, Ajaikapat, Ahir Bundya, Bahurupa, and Maha. Tarksha's wives were Vinata, Kadru, Patangi, and Yamini. Patangi produced birds, and Yamini the moths and similar short-lived insects which could fly. Vinata had the good fortune to be the mother of 2 sons, both of whom are famous. One is Aruna, the charioteer of the sun, and the other is Garuda, the bird, who carries Lord Narayana. Kadru was the mother of the serpents, the more famed ones being Shesha, Vasuki, Takshaka, and Karkotaka. Chandra's wives were the stars, Chitra, Kritika, and Rohini being the more famous of the 27 stars. Kashyapa's wives were Aditi, Diti, Dhanu, Kastha, Arishtha, Surasa, Ila, Muni, Krodavasha, Tamra, Surabhi, Sarama, Timi. Timi became the mother of the sea animals, the chief of them being the Timingala, the whale. Sarama became the mother of wild and other animals. It is interesting to note that a dog is called Sarameya, the son of Sarama. Surabhi produced cows and buffaloes and animals with split hoofs. Tamara gave birth to hawks, falcons, eagles, and such like, while Muni was the woman who gave the Apsaras to the heavens. Krodavasha was the mother of serpents with fangs. Serpents which have poison in their fangs. Ila caused the trees to grow. Arishta was the mother of the Gandharvas, and animals without the split hoofs were born to Kashta. Danu had 61 sons, and some of them are known to the world of men: Sambara, Hayagriva, Vibhavasu, Vrishaparva, Swarbhanu, Vaishravas, and others. Swarbhanu's daughter, who was called Suprabha, was married to Namuchi. Vrishaparva was the father of Sharmishta, who later became the wife of Yayati, the son of Nahusha. Vaishwanara, another son of Dhanu, was the father of 4 lovely daughters: Upadhanvi, Hayashri, Puloma, and Kalaka. Upadhanvi married Hiranyaksha. Kratu married her sister Hayashira. Kashyapa Prajapati married Puloma and Kalaka. The sons of these 2 women were great warriors. They were famed as the terrible Kalakeya and Nivata Kavacha Asuras. Arjuna in the later years was the one who vanquished them. Viprasiddhi, a son of Dhanu, married Simhika, the daughter of Hiranyakashipu, and he had 100 sons, the eldest of whom was Rahu and another was Ketu. These 2 were granted the privilege of being placed among the Navagrahas. Aditi, another daughter of Daksha, was a very fortunate woman, since she was chosen as his mother by the Lord himself when he took the form of Vamana, Upendra. The son of Aditi where Vivaswan, Aryama, Pusha, Twashta, Savita, Bhaga, Datta, Vidhata, Dhata, Vidhata, Varuna, Mitra, Shakra, and Urukrama. Vivaswan became the father of Shraddhadeva, Manu, and the twins Yama and Yami. The wife of Vivaswan, whose name was Samgya, took the form of a mare and living on the earth became the mother of the Ashwini twins. Chaya, another wife of Vivaswan, gave birth to Sanaishchara, the Manu, who was Savarni, and a daughter by name Thapati. Aryama's wife was Matrika. Their children were ordained to be human beings by Brahma. Pusha had no children. He was the one who laughed when Lord Mahadeva was being insulted by Daksha. Later his teeth were broken and he is said to feed on flout and milk since he had no front teeth with which to chew food. Twashta married Rachana, the sister of Rachana, and their son was Vishvarupa, and another son was named Sannivesha. The Devas, when their Guru had abandoned them, approached this Vishvarupa and requested him to be their Guru. King Parikshit intervened here and said, "What a fascinating story! But tell me, my lord, why did their Guru abandon the Devas? They must have offended him to a great extent, or else Brahaspati has never been known to have shown his anger towards Indra and his subjects. My curiosity is kindled. Please enlighten me, my lord." Shuka Brahma smiled his usual smile at the excited question of the king and said, "It is a long story. I will be only too happy to tell you." Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Chapter 68 of Shrimadbhagavatam, the birth of Vrutrasura. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Indra had become proud because he was Lord of the heavens. Once, he was seated on the throne with Sachi by his side. All the heavenly attendants were surrounding him and his glories were sung by the Gandharvas. Apsaras were entertaining him with their dances, and the court of Indra was glowing with beauty and music, the music of the Gandharvas and the Kinnaras. The 7 Maruts, the 11 Rudras, the 12 Adityas, the Ashwini twins, and all the lords of the quarters were there to pay homage to Indra. The great Brahaspati, the divine preceptor, came to the court. In his arrogance, Indra did not get up from his seat and honor his Guru. Brahaspati could not brook this insult. Without speaking, he stood for a long moment staring at the arrogant Indra on the throne and turning back, walked away from there. He left the court and then reached home. Only after his Guru left did Indra realize the magnitude of his impertinence. He chided himself with the words, "In my pride, I have insulted my Kulaguru. I must go to him at once and fall at his feet. I must crave his pardon." Indra rushed to the home of Brahaspati. But the Guru, anticipating this move from Indra, had already made himself invisible and Indra could not find him. He was at loss as to what he should do. The news spread like wildfire that Indra was without his religious mentor and that he was feeling lost without him. Taking advantage of his helplessness, the Asuras headed by their Guru Shukra waged war on Indra and the heavenly host. The Devas were, as usual, defeated shamefully. Hurt by their position more than by the weapons of the Asuras, the Devas went to Brahma and poured out their misery. They asked him to advise them as to what they should do now. Brahma, taking pity on the Devas and on Indra especially, said, "Indra, you have in your pride insulted a great man. It is very unfortunate that this should have happened. I can only suggest one thing. You must go now and request Vishvarupa, the son of Twasta, to help you. He is great and he is fit to be your Guru. He should be made to accept the role of the preceptor of the Devas. Being an Asura, his sympathies will, however, be with the Asuras. You should be able to overlook that and ask him to be your Guru. He will help you." The Devas went to Vishvarupa and falling at his feet, Indra said, We have come to you as supplicants, nay, beggars. It is not right that we should teach you the nuances of Dharma, but we wish to remind you that a Guru who teaches the Vedas is the personification of the Vedas themselves. A father is the image of Prajapati and a mother the image of the earth. A brother is the image of Indra and a sister the image of compassion. An uninvited guest is the Lord Dharma himself, while an invited guest is the image of Agni. All living beings are but forms of the Lord. As such, you should treat us as your equal. You should become our Guru and lead us to victory. You are younger than me in age, but I fall at your feet since you are going to grant me a boon and I am going to receive it. Since you will have to be our Guru, age does not stand in the way of our salutations to you. Please grant us our desire. Please be one of us. Vishwarupa smiled at them and said, "The role of preceptor is not good for me. Being a preceptor is a thing which has been disapproved of by the wise, since it will cloud the Brahma Tejas in a rishi. But you are in trouble and you have asked me to help you. It is the dharma to help those who are in need of help, and I will accept your offer. It is a big sacrifice you are asking me to make, and yet, caught as I am in a dilemma, I am not able to refuse you this favor. I will be your Guru." Vishwarupa became their Guru, and since he was conversant with many arts, he was able to restore their lost ways to the Devas. His greatest service to Indra was the powerful armor by name Narayana Kavacha, which he placed on him. He initiated the king of the Devas in the incantation of the sacred mantra Om Namo Narayanaya. Every organ of sense and thought and action is made to be covered with the thoughts of Narayana, and this became an armor against all evil. Incessant repetition of the mantra Om Namo Narayanaya was the secret of the Kavacha. Wearing his Kavacha, Indra was able to defeat the Asuras in the war with them. Once a yajna was performed with Vishwarupa as the preceptor. While he was the officiating priest for Indra, the lord of the Devas, Vishwarupa had to invoke the Devas for their share of the Havis with the words Indriyaya Idham, Varunaya Idham. Vishwarupa, who as an Asura was naturally partial to the Asuras, and by trickery he made the Havis to reach the Asuras when he pronounced the above mantras. Indra saw that he was being deceived by his preceptor. Brahma had warned him of this contingency and had told Indra that he should put up with it. But Indra could not brook this behavior of the Asura. He took up his sword and cut off the 3 heads of Vishwarupa. The head by name Soma Pitham, which was so named because he would drink Soma with it, was the first head to go. This, when severed from his body, became a bird by name Kapinjala. The head which would drink Sura and was hence called Surapitham became another bird by name Kalavinga. The third, called Annadham, because he would eat food with it, became the third by Tittiri. Since he had killed a Brahmin, Indra was visited by the dread curse Brahmahatya. For 1 year he suffered it. After the year was over, he requested the earth, the trees, women and water to share it among themselves and rid him of the sin. In return, he granted them boons which made the Brahmahatya ineffective in the long run. Twashta was very angry with Indra for having killed his son. He performed a homa and the invocation was, "Arise, Indra Shatru, come out and kill your enemy soon." When the yaga was over, there arose out of the fire a dreadful form. He was dark and huge, and he glowed like a cluster of clouds at the close of the day. His hair was copper red, and so were his eyes. They were hot and burning like the sun at his zenith. He held a trident in his hand, and looking at him, people fled in sheer terror. So fearful was his form, his voice, his roar. He was called Vritra. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishna Arpanamast.